Ray Shalene here, Pro Shaper Sheet Metal. Today I'm going to make a little Jaguar fender, and this will be made out of aluminum, and this is a drawing of a Jaguar fender here. And it's a little technique that I came up with using a steel bench and a piece of paper. And these are basically just refrigerator magnet material. I got this stuff off of eBay after coming up with the idea. It comes in 1/2-inch widths. I just cut it in half so it's 1/4-inch width. Makes a pretty nice little flexible line, very similar to a CAD drawing capability with your lines. You can basically manipulate that line wherever you want it. So you can lay out pretty complex little drawings fast using this technique. Once you have your magnets where you want them, adjust them in a million different ways. And then you just gotta take an outline around the magnet. And even if you really can't draw too good, boom, you have a really nice drawing. Remove the magnets. And that's a nice little scale drawing of the rear Jaguar XK120 fender. I've made these in the past at my classes. And they're a nice little fun project. You can hang it on the wall. We'll make it out of aluminum, it'll be all shiny. And you can put a clock right in the middle. Okay, now we've got a nice scaled side view drawing of the XK120 rear fender. And this was done with that magnet technique. And it doesn't include, we're making this for a blank to be shaped into an actual scaled rear fender. So we're going to need the extra material. So we've got to estimate that. On the actual fender, there's a little roll here. I'm going to probably need at least this much. There's a lip on this side. I'm going to add a little bit more there. And this is a strong roll here all the way through. So I'm going to add a little more there. I'm not going to cut this out till after. And there's a roll right here. I'm going to add a little more here. So this is our rough blank size. I'm going to cut that out of a piece of aluminum and then start shaping that panel. And now I've got the aluminum blank cut out. And what I want to do is overlay my original drawing, which I cut out also. Put it on the blank, and you can see the extra material I've allotted there. And I'm going to hold this on with a few magnets. They'll pull right through the aluminum into the steel bench below. And then I'm just going to trace out this pattern. Get my marker. Just trace around it. We're going to trim this panel quite a bit, but we won't be able to do that until we get the details into it, some of the rough shape into it. We're going to be, on this technique, for techniques I'm going to use is just a simple stump shrinking. And we'll get most of the shape through shrinking. And right here is a reverse curve. We're going to shrink that. Also on a post ollie piece of hardwood that I formed to make reverse curves pretty easy. We're going to do an internal shrink. Instead of stretching this edge like crazy, which is typically the way most people would make this reverse curve, we're going to internally shrink that panel right here. And what we want to do is shrink it either just the right amount, or we can shrink it too much. If we shrink it too much, all we got to do is stretch it back out to the proper amount. So that's really not a problem. The error would be if we didn't shrink it enough. And if we didn't shrink it enough, we can stretch the edge to overcome that area too. But that's the first thing we're going to do, is deal with this reverse curve. It's the hottest part of the whole panel pretty much. And it is located right in here like that. So we're gonna try to, and it'll have to be up to here because this material is gonna be rounded like this. So that whole zone has gotta get shrunk. So that's what we're gonna do next. All right, now we're gonna do the shrinking right here, internal, to get that reverse curve. And the only way I know that you could do this with a machine would be an Eckold shrinking machine. They make a six segmented die that will actually shrink the internal part of a panel. Those machines are like $50,000. I chose a piece of skid wood here that I've shaped, free basically from a skid. Shaped it in a bandsaw, ground it a little bit. All you need to do is make this little hump here. And the trick is, just like regular edge shrinking, you have to capture the material in order to shrink it. So this is all going to be wheeled up and shaped and bead on and everything else. So right now we're just going to put it in this little U configuration here. U arrangement, as I like to say. I'm going to take a mallet, one of my mallets. And the trick is you got to keep it trapped like this. I'm going to take the hammer. You hit it on that end. You can hit it on this end. And you can see right there that metal has now been trapped. So the trick is, just like if you were knocking a ruffle or a tuck down, you slowly work this down. It looks really ugly. Don't worry about what it looks like. What you got to be careful of is this tipping over on you. So if it gets too, looks like it's going to tip over, back off a little bit, let it escape a little. And just proceed to crush it. Take a little bit more if we want. Now with aluminum you can anneal it too. I don't have this anneal. This is only the way it comes, half hard. Slowly crush that down. We got a little extra material over here. We can take a little bit of that too. We can always go farther than we need to go. It's not an issue, because we can always punch it back out again. I don't have a flexible shape pattern for this panel. If I did, it would tell me exactly what I need to do. A buck would not work at all in this situation. A flexible shape pattern will. Maybe take a little bit over here too. We'll take a look at that and see what that's going to tell us. So we're going to put it on the bench. we're going to flatten this out. All right, we got the reverse curve section shrunk. It looks horrible, not to worry. All that matters is to get the correct amount of area change to happen on that section. We've reduced the actual amount of area, which caused this lip to come up like this. If I was doing this as an edge stretch, this would have had to been stretched down to about 10 thousandths thick in order for that to do the same configuration. So now I could go and planish that out on the English wheel right now, but I'm going to choose to stump shrink. I have a bunch of different techniques I use for shrinking. Again, there's probably a half a dozen ways to shrink metal. I think the stump is probably one of the best. Okay, now I'm going to shrink this edge here, and to do it in a very efficient and inexpensive way, I'm going to use a stump. I've got about 4 stumps in the shop here. I use them all for different things. I'll use one particular stump right now, and we're going to shrink that edge. Okay, I've got my panel. This was the side we worked on before. Now we're going to be working on the back side. I roughly drew in traced in the outline of the actual side view of the fender. And now this is a stump I'm going to use. I call this the swimming pool. This is the deep end. This is the shallow end. And to make the stump do its job, what you do is you put your panel up here on the edge of the deep end. And my target area is going to be all in here. Is my target area. I want to hit in here so it shrinks in here. So this will throw up spontaneous ruffles or tucks right along that little edge. And then we're going to eventually, after we get them all in and get the tucks hammered down, we will be planishing them out in the English wheel. And then we'll start to see the 3-dimensional rear fender. So there's a little one there. So now we have our ruffles or tucks that were spontaneously put in, and the hammer distortions. And this is what it looks like on this side. Basically just, you see the Coke bottle, the old Coke bottle cap effect. Now what we're going to do is hammer those down, crushing the metal into itself, using the stump to help us trap that metal. Now if it's too deep, you can move on to the shallower section here. And this is all on material that's probably going to be cut away. We might have to do another series of shrinks further inboard after we see what we got here. So. There's what we got so far. And we could planish this out now if we wanted to. But I think what I'll do is, this is real flat in here. I'm going to pump this up a little bit. Here's what we have so far. Here's an original 120 Fender here. And you can see there's not too much similarity yet, but just a glimpse of it. So we've got to do a little bit more work. It's only taken us a few minutes to do what we've done so far. And this is all flat in here, so we've got to deal with that. We could do shrinks, cut this out and do shrinks, but I'm choosing to blow this out with a little hammer work, elastic stretching. Now we got the panel back on the stump. This is the void of the stump. Instead of using a sand bag, we're just going to do an air hit here into the void. All right, now I've got some stretching in the center section here. I've got some shrinking on the edge. Here's the actual outer side of it. I've got the reverse curve. It looks horrible. I think you're probably laughing that this is never going to be saved. This will be just like chrome plate. You watch. So next what we're going to do is probably crush down a little bit more of this tucking that popped up with the hammer back in the stump. We've got to be careful that we don't go over on some of these. We can over shrink it and the material will fold over on itself. We don't want that to happen. If that starts to happen, you've got to open it up with the hammer. This one's a typical one. It's a little dangerous here, so we got to hit that back on the edge of the stump. Tell it we don't want it to flip over. Go back in. Crush that in. Done. This one. Okay, so now I've roughed the panel out. It's by no means finished yet, just roughed, and I took 2 courses of shrinks on the edge and 2 courses of stretching out that center, and you can start to see the fenders starting to pop for us now. So it looks still horrible. We've got this real heavy, rough surface. What we're going to do now is just kind of pre-planish that with the hammer on a flat stump, and then we'll go to the English wheel and planish this out, and then that will tell us where we're at after we get it smoothed out. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, now I've moved to a flat stump. I've got the panel on here, and I'm going to pre-planish out this roughness. So it's just a matter of crushing this down fully. This makes it easier to go through the English wheel to get a lot of this down. this wheel today to wheel this out. This is a new wheel we just finished, and it's a good size for this. So I'm going to smooth this out, planish it out on this wheel. I chose this anvil. That might be a little bit too flat. I don't know. We'll see. So this is just a simple process of knocking all those bumps down. Up here at the reverse curve, we're going to do a little different thing. First, I'm going to knock the back section. I got the pressure super loose just to get the bumps out. I'm going to tighten the pressure up in a little bit. Right now. This little fender is manageable for one person to make. It's scaled properly. If it was a real fender, I would generally make these in two pieces, a front piece and a back piece. You could make it in one piece, but you probably need a helper on the other end of the panel. We got this lower section right here. This has a roll. It has some shrinking that's going to have to happen there. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to wait till I get this all kind of where it needs to be before I'll address that. That'll be one of the finishing operations, the details. I can choose to pull that around a little bit, so on my back, when I'm pulling it out, I pull it down a little bit. And that will induce that roll that we want. We might have a little bit too much material here. We can always cut that off after. We might have to shrink it again. All these problems will be addressed as we develop this. We're doing this by eye, not by a buck or a flexible shape pad. Made quite a few of these Jag fenders, both the small scale and also the full scale. It's a beautiful shape. Actually the Jag 120s, 140s, and even the 150s to a certain extent are really a continuation of the elegance of the 30s styling. And updated a little bit, but still has that strong 30s beauty to it. Late 30s. Tighten it up a little more. So that's kind of just rough smooth right now. That's good as all we need right at the moment. Now we got to address this reverse curve section here. Now we don't want to stretch that out so much, so we're going to loosen that up a little bit. And we're going to pull this through. Real careful. It's going to crunch a little bit, but no big deal. So there we have the panel slightly planished, not fully planished. This we got to address right now. And there's two ways you can knock down the roughness in the reverse curve section. You can basically just pull it through, the panel, and I'll show you that in a second. And you can also run the panel upside down. You have to use the higher crown wheel when you run them upside down. And between those two methods, I'll probably use both methods. We'll get this all smoothed out in a matter of minutes. So we're going to do that right now. And now I put a higher crown wheel on the bottom, and I'm going to address all this roughness here first. And you got to do that upside down. My pin's falling out a little bit. Pop that pin in. Tighten up the adjuster a little bit. Give it a little more. Now, the issue is the top wheel could hit right here. It started to hit a little bit. So I'm going to have to switch techniques here a little bit. So now I'm going to smooth it by just going in this way. You want to smooth this so that you're just smoothing it, you're not stretching that reversed area out at all. So you got to be careful. Once it starts to smooth, you got to stop and assess the situation. So there's our reverse starting to form nicely. And we got this big mound here. We're going to kind of blend that all in. I'll put a lower anvil in, get that all smoothed out. And then basically we have the shape in a roughed out shape. And then what we'll do is maybe trim a little bit. That's what we'll do next. So now the next section is to knock this piece down here. It got distorted when we did the reverse curve. I'm going to use my big wheel. A lot of my students love to use this. It's a real treat to use it. On this particular panel, it'll work fine on this lower crown section, but I chose to use the other wheel to do this higher crown edge section. So I want to get that little bump out. Now I might have to radially shrink that on a flat. Otherwise that's a lot of extra material that's caught right there. So that's actually stretched as a result. I'd have to wheel this like crazy over here. And I have to cut this out in order to relieve that. So I'm going to try a little radial shrink right here. That's another little trick. It's pretty easy to do. We're going to put it on that flat stone. And we're just going to radially capture that material. I actually shrunk it down, so now I'll have to stretch it back out a little bit. So that worked pretty good. So now I'll go back over to the big wheel. this section, which is all going to be cut out after. We'll work this up a little bit, and that'll even that all out. Just keep wheeling out the little bumps and lumps and watching the surfaces as you develop them. Don't dwell on any spot too much. This metal is pretty responsive, and it'll pop real fast into a little mushroom if you stay in one spot. You can see that reverse curve's working really nice. Got to smooth it a little bit more. Bringing that edge around. Oh, look at that. It's starting to look like chrome plate. That's what we want to see. Now this section here needs a little more shrink or a little more stretch, either one. We could shrink on this edge some more, because what's happening is the surface is going like this, and we want it to be more like this. So we can stretch this section or shrink this section. It needs a little trimming too. So I'm going to stretch it a little bit more. I might take a couple more shrinks on that back tail. Stretch it. Now typically when you're wheeling like this and you wheel in this real methodical pattern, I call that the English method. I tend to not do that. Sometimes you have to do it, but generally I let my eye tell me what I need to do. I can see as I'm traveling over the panel where it needs a little more puff, a little more area, or a little more shape. Now this has got to be pulled around quite a bit here, so like I said, either a stretch inboard or a shrink outboard does the same thing. We're probably going to do a little of both. That's always a little tricky piece to do right there. That's not probably... The reverse curve and this little corner are the two toughest parts to do on this panel. I'm always pulling down on that panel a little bit if I want to induce that roll into it. And I watch when I pop it down like that, see how the edge will talk to you. The edge will jump, and that's telling you that there's too much metal on the edge. Too much metal on the edge can be fixed by shrinking the edge or stretching inboard, one or the other. Now if you have to stretch quite a bit, your metal will get thin, and then you lose your dent resistance, so you don't want to stretch too much. Generally any panel can be made with about a 50-50 ratio between stretch and shrink. It can be 60-40, 70-30. You can make a panel by all shrinking, all stretching. Usually like a 50-50 or a 60-40 gives you a really nice ratio, nice panel. It's got quite a bit of thickness still to it. That's starting to pop now. Starting to see that beautiful jaguar shape. You start making a little panel like this, next thing you know, you want to make the whole car. This inspires you to say, well, I can make the rest of the car. And you got grandkids or something like that, it makes a really nice project. Something to do in the winter instead of watching TV. Make a kid's car for your grandkids. Learn how to do it, come to my class. The first 242 XK Jags were all made out of aluminum by a coach building firm in England called Abbey Panels, which is still in business. They're now called Lodes, L-O-U-D-E-S. They do a lot of developmental work for a lot of the big manufacturers. Okay, that's enough for now. Okay, here's what we got. We're going to compare it with the original fender. We got the reverse. It's still a rough but somewhat refined surface. We don't have enough roll here yet. We're either going to have to stretch a lot more or shrink a little more on this edge. We're going to have to trim a little. But overall, you're starting to see it now, which is real encouraging. You get a great sense of satisfaction when you make something like this. If you can make this, you can make anything. And it's all simple. Okay, I've got the panel trimmed out. The next step is to shrink this edge. If I don't shrink this edge, I'll have to stretch there quite a bit. So I'm going to do another round of shrinking. A little bit more on this back side. Again, I don't have a buck, so I'm doing this all by eye. So I'm being cautious, going slow. Now, if I do make error and shrink too much, it's not a problem. Just stretch it back out again. More here. I can see that really came around. And we gotta planish it out again. Okay, I did all the shrinks on the edge, and I decided to a little elastic stretch also inboard a little bit. The shape is really starting to pop now. I pre-planished it a little bit. Now I'm gonna put it in the wheel and smooth that out really nice. We might even have to do another course of shrinks. I'm doing this without a buck. If I had a buck or a flexible shape pattern, it would be much easier to do. This, if I just had the flexible shape pattern, would be a breeze, because that'll tell us exactly what to do. That's right, I generally try to teach in my class. Once I get this panel done, I'll make a flexible shape pattern off of it and literally make hundreds of these much easier. So I go to the wheel now and planish this out. As you can see, the edges really started to come over now. This wheel might be a little bit big. Let's see what it says. It talks to you. Now it's working pretty good, so if it starts hitting on the edge, I can go to the other wheel. Bring that edge around more and more, so I'm going to pull on it as I'm wheeling through. This edge becomes actually the flange where it bolts up to the inner fender on the car. Wheeling out the side skirt here. It's got a little bit of crown, a nice little low crown there. Just popping right up. Every minute it looks better and better. If you notice, you can see we're getting that nice chrome plate finish. It'll get more so as we develop it. And as far as tools, we're using an English wheel, which is, I believe, one of the fundamental tools you should own if you want to do this type of work. It's a quiet tool. Generally, I listen to the radio when I wheel. And you can make a wheel yourself, you can purchase one. I made all my wheels myself through the years. This one's 20 years old now. And as far as the shrinking goes, basically I've used hardwood stumps. I haven't used any fancy equipment that costs thousands and thousands of dollars and makes lots of noise. The stump will make noise, that hammering. I prefer the English wheel over just about any method that's possible to do this same type of work. The reason being is it's so quiet. Keep pulling that over. Crushing down all that shrunk area, blending it into the side. Now that's actually about a 90-degree turn here we got to make. We're getting close to the 90 degrees. I've got my outline that I put on the panel, and that's going to be the guide. That's the side view line. I still got this all to address, but it's in pretty good shape. The reverse is in there nice. Just got to smooth some of that out. Get this shape in here, get it smooth, and then there's a little roll here. There's a flange that comes down here, and then there's a little step over here, a joggle. and a little roll on the tail, and this would be finished. I don't know what scale this is, it just did it by eye. It's actually a pretty nice scale for a little kiddie's car. Might be 1/3 scale or something, close to it. See if we can get in here on the end. I generally don't use quick adjusters on my wheel. I don't have a quick adjuster on any of my wheels. I don't see a reason for them. If you want to get into a panel, all you got to do is go on the edge of the wheel and it'll let you right in. Go in at a 45. My first wheel had a quick adjuster, and I found it very cumbersome to work with because it's always underneath in a spot you couldn't reach. So I gave up on them. It's real low pressure I'm working. The aluminum doesn't take much, works really quickly. A common error that most of my students would do is that they will dwell on an area. If you dwell on one area, it'll pop a mushroom real fast. That doesn't mean you throw the panel away and start all over again. That means you learn quickly how to correct the mistakes. And I show that at every one of my classes. And basically the routine is once you make an area where you overdevelop an area, you have to work all around it. But you got to keep an eye out at all times to make sure you don't do that. So you're kind of moving around. Like I said, I don't use the typical English method, which is very methodical, all these overlapping tracks. I kind of just watch by eye what I'm doing. It's pretty intuitive once you pick up the basic rules. You can see that panel is really starting to pop now. I don't even know if I'm going to have to do another set of shrinks or not. I don't think so. Now a lot of guys tend to run to their shrinker stretchers and they'll put the shrinker stretcher. I very rarely will do that. I do it all by just wheeling it or shrinking it on a stump or shrinking it in another method. I don't like the marks that the shrinker stretcher makes. I generally use those only on flanges. These gloves are a really great tool for working these panels. They got a really nice rubber interface that grips the panel really, really good, and it's super thin so that you can really feel almost an enhanced feel with them. That's one of your most important tools, to be able to rub your hand and feel those slight imperfections. Students that are painters always come in with a heightened sense of what is a good surface versus complete novices. Painters, car painters know how to develop surfaces, but they're generally using fillers, but it's the same technique. They can use the light, they can use their sense of touch, and they can see inconsistencies. That's what they're trained to do. So it just takes a little while to get a feel for it. Pull this edge around. Remember, we got to go almost 90 degrees there. This spot here is the spot that might need a little more shrinking right in here. I might have to put one more shrink in there. I might have to go to a little higher crown wheel or go to my other wheel with a higher crown wheel for that little section. So here's what we got now. Okay, I've moved over to this higher crown wheel on my other wheel, and I'm going to do this section right here, which has the most curve to it. I'm going to try to pull that over. I might have to do a shrink there. See how this stretches out. Seem to be coming over pretty good. And maybe we'll go back to the other wheel now. Do it a little bit more over here. Pull this over some more too. That's a critical element of doing wheeling, is using the power of the wheel to arrange the panel also. Arrangement is throwing the radius, the correct radius that's supposed to be in there. It's a compression stretching machine, but it's also an arranging tool. It'll throw any radius that you want. If I want to flatten this back out, all I gotta do is lift up on it. I'm staying up, I'm going up to the edge, but I'm staying off that edge. I'm stretching inboard a little bit every time I pass over here. Every time I pass over, all the shrink residue just kind of fades away. Kind of cold forges into itself and gets more and more like chrome plate every minute you wheel on it. There'll be some residue of the shrinks there. There'll be little distortions that won't mean anything. I have my original line here that I drew. That's my side view line, so I still got to come over a little bit more. I'll get this very tail piece there. Pull that over. Need a little more stretching in here now. What you got to watch out for is the edge of the bottom wheel hitting. So you can't go, say, like this, because if I do, the edge of the wheel will hit right along that edge. So I'm going to accommodate that bottom wheel by going this way. Once we get it a little more developed, we'll be cutting out this wheel well opening, and then it'll really, really pop. Keep turning it around, dressing all the little areas you see. And I'm gonna pull it out and take a look at it. All right, further developed the fender. I did a little bit more shrinking on the edge, pulled it over a little more wheeling in the intersection here, outer section, I guess. And now I've demarked all the points where it has to be tipped over. There's a little roll here, a flange there, and a joggle here. I've got them all marked out. You can see the fender's really taking its shape now. It still can be smoothed a little bit more. I might do that after. I could do it now, but I'm trying to get some of the details in here. And now I'm going to put the details in on the tipping wheel. Now, all of these marks are on the outside of the fender. I've used 1/8 inch fine line tape, and I really need the marks on the inside of the fender. So I'm putting them on the outside of the fender because it's easier. It would be difficult to try to put that tape on the inside. So I put them on the outside. I got my tipping wheel here. A little bit of engagement on the wheel. Loosen that up just a little bit. What I'm going to do is just basically score a line here that will transfer onto the other side, and then I'll be able to put my tape on the other side. It's going to score right through. Carefully go around. Sometimes there's conflicts where it hits part of the machine. You got to be careful. I'm building another machine to make this not happen. Yeah. We're all the way through on that. And you can see the line is now scored in there. I'll be able to put the blue line tape right in the right position, and I'll start tipping this edge, putting that joggle in. Now I got to do the flange in the front. Same deal. Okay, so I've got all the tip points all marked with the blue tape. I've tipped them up, which transferred the lines onto the other side. I've got these marked now with blue tape. I'm going to leave my blue tape here because that's a proof that I moved the tip at the right spot. And now I'm going to start tipping this flange, and this flange, I'll do this one last. So, I'll start over here. I'm going to lift this up this way now. I was lifting it the other way previously. A little bit of conflict there. Hold on, I'll do it the other way. Got to go in this way. Okay, try it this way. Roll it in. Lift it up. Now you can do this with vice grips too. You'll have to clean it up a little bit. You can do it with a joggle die. A bunch of different ways. A lot of people use the Pullmax to do this, but you might have issues. I tried to do these years ago on my Pullmax with a regular full-size Jaguar fender, and it just wouldn't work. The smaller one, it might work. I like slowly rolling them in. Might have some conflicts here. It looks like that tail's gonna hit, so I guess I'll have to do that with pliers. So take that out. Now, this flange here. Now this flange is gonna have to shrink right in here as I come up, but first let me get it up a few degrees here. The inside of the tape or the outside of the tape, what is that? Right there. Okay. Tighten that up a little. There, there's my first pass. You can see there's extra material here. This will just go right over. This has to be shrunk. We can cut some of that material away too if we want to. And we want to check, see, we got this tipping right on our line. So we transferred the information through pretty nicely. This one I might do a little bit different on the post dolly, because that's more of a roll than a tip. Let me give you one more pass through here, and then we'll put it in the shrinker, shrink up that extra material. There, you can see that extra material right there. Tells you that you have to do something with it. Obviously, it needs to be shrunk. And do one more pass with this. Hold this up a little more. Now, as these details start to emerge on the panel really starts to look like what it's supposed to. And it stiffens up quite a bit too. I can't go all the way around because I'm going to be hitting in the back. I'm going to have to do that with vice grips. This is going to have to be stretched. Anytime you make a flange that's got like an inside curve, it'll need to be stretched. Anytime you have a flange like this with an outside curve, it'll need to be shrunk. So we're going to go over to the shrinker and shrink and stretch those areas. This is my shrinker that I designed and built. I have Erco dies in it. These are what's called extended beak shrinking dies. They are really nice for doing a little flange like this. I just suck up that material pretty good. I pretty much only use this type of shrinker stretcher only on flanges. I never try to make a panel using one of these. You really need a much heavier shrinker stretcher like Eckhold to really be able to make panels with a shrinker stretcher. And I don't like the marks. I like the finish that the English wheel leaves the best. This flange is probably a little longer than it really needs to be. Actually, on the full-size panel, it's only 3/4 of an inch wide or so. So we can cut this down a little bit and it'll go over a little faster even. Okay, here's the little fender with all the little details done on it. It came out pretty decent. Got this little joggle detail. I had to use actually vice grips or some parallel pliers on it to hand put it in. And keep in mind, all of this work was done with stumps, a beater bag, a mallet, and some English wheeling to do the final finish. Then we're going to compare this now to the full-size fender. And you can see this was all done by eye, no buck. I've made a few of these, so I know what Jaguar fenders look like now. And early next year, I'm going to start a program where we're going to be building all aluminum, full-scale Jaguar bodies and tube frames. And I'm going to start that program probably in February of 2014.